a million for joining me on this this video. You know, since we last spoke, I've had a lot of comments and a lot of questions, and I've tried to answer some of them in this video. When we ended the last session, we ended with a statement that you need to take action. Well, since I've been sitting here and thinking through some more of the comments you've made over the past 2 videos, I've come to a conclusion, and that is I want you to have a fresh mind. So I want you to hit, as it were, the refresh button, because I want you to start thinking fresh, because I want you to turn your life around. I want you to try to visualize the future by taking a quick look back at where you have come from and the journey you've been on. Your journey in life, as well as your journey in business, your work activities. This here around you here down at Torquay, this is one of my spots for coming to think fresh. I just sit here with the issues and, you know, let it all take place around me nice and quiet, and then I try to come up with the answers. So let's try and have a fresh look at things. I started school in Glasgow, Scotland in 1947, probably before most of you were born. In those days I had one cool pen and ink, blotting paper and one book. By 1952 I'd arrived in Melbourne, Australia and went to school there, and now I had 3 books, 2 pencils and a biro pen. I think I told you in the earlier video that I started work at 13 in a grocer's shop. Well, after that, one of the jobs I had at 15 was a telegram boy, delivering the urgent news by telegram on a push bike all over Melbourne. In those days, a bit like the Pony Express. Rain, hail or shine, the telegram must get through. And you know, in business I've seen a lot of things. I've seen the typewriter, the telex machine, the fax machine, the Commodore 64, the first of the computers, email and so on, until the latest gadgets and iPhones and iPads. Communications, accelerating, it goes on and on. You know, when my dad was working, and when I started work, it was common for employees to receive a gold watch after 25 years of service. You could work for the PMG, the bank, government departments, large companies, and you stayed there for years. That was usually your own workplace. But today's environment is completely different. Completely different. You see, now, that's what I want you to think about. I want you maybe just to relax here. I want you maybe to pause the video and think fresh for a few minutes. Think, as I said, about your past, think about your future, and then we'll continue on, maybe back at the office. So go ahead, pause and take time to reflect.
Hi again, great to have you back, and thanks for all the comments that we're receiving. So you've either grabbed your coffee or, if you're like me, a Coke Zero, and you've been thinking about your future. So I want to be helping that process and upskill you. So today we're covering off project scope and stakeholders. These 2 topics are the ones when I'm training or consulting that cause the most grief. Understanding exactly what the project is delivering seems to confuse most everyone. Understanding that when this is done poorly, the flow on is that procurement will be done poorly as well. So we're going to work through a process and a technique to help you resolve that. Stakeholders. They're always a hot issue, and an unfortunate part of your project and your life in general is that you need to deal with people. All types of people, and we know that sometimes this can end in tears. But what does it mean to your project delivery? Stick with me and we'll look into that. So please keep the comments coming, as they are invaluable. And now let's go to the learning.
Okay, welcome back to this training. We hope that you're getting a lot out of it. From the comments that we've been receiving, people certainly are, and we're really grateful for all the positive feedback we've been getting, and thankful, and hopefully we're answering some questions. Project scope is what we're going to look at right now. The project scope pertains to the work necessary to deliver a product. From the perspective of the project plan, it is the sum total of its products and the extent of their requirements. It's best described and illustrated by the product breakdown structure and then the associated product descriptions. By thoroughly planning and describing the scope, it enables all stakeholders to clearly understand what the project is and is not delivering. It's critical that the stakeholder is in agreement with the information discussed in the proposed plan. So, our project is to deliver a Christmas lunch. We will have meat, vegetables, and condiments. So the Christmas lunch is what your project is delivering. That is your project product. The meat, vegetables, and condiments are collective groups. They're not deliverables, but we use them for brainstorming. So under the meat, we will be delivering turkey, chicken, ham, and lamb. Under the vegetables, potatoes, carrots, and pumpkin. And for the condiments, we have gravy, white sauce, applesauce, and mustard. So the blue rectangles are the products that you need to deliver. So when you've delivered all of these products, we have successfully delivered the project. So in this case, when we deliver all the meat, the potatoes, and the condiments, we have successfully delivered a Christmas lunch, which was what our project product was. Each product then can be identified with an associated product description. Hence, if this is done thoroughly and collectively with key stakeholders, then the procurement process becomes a whole lot simpler. By drilling down and knowing what products need to be delivered, we can manage to that level of detail. So, for example, one of the products was chicken. So, the product description, the specification would be a 2 kilogram organic chicken from Australia. The quantity would be 300 and the delivery schedule would be for December 20, 2015. With this level of information in the scope, the project understands what it needs to deliver and procurement understands what it needs to ensure is delivered, and all stakeholders can be in agreement. So spending time on the product descriptions then becomes the basis to go to market with. We are eliminating ambiguity. Through this detail, we are developing with key stakeholders and involving procurement. Procurement are then able to do their job with confidence as they have been involved and know the key criteria and requirements of the project. So then how does this lead to best supply fit at best whole cost? So we've been on both sides of the tendering process, both as a supplier and in procurement. So from a supplier's perspective, we've had manufacturing businesses as well as offering services. So we know that where there is ambiguity, there is a corresponding price premium. That just means if we're not quite sure what the tender is asking for, if the specifications and requirements are vague, then we have no choice as a supplier other than to add a fudge factor to cover what you believe will be an inevitable time or material blowout. You are going to cover yourself. So, if you want the lowest costs, you have to ensure that the supplier has all the information they need. There is no ambiguity. You are simply increasing costs when you are ambiguous in your request to market. Suppliers need to know what's expected of them. This can be in terms of the specifications, the quantities, any internal requirements you have, what the criteria for evaluation is. Are there any special terms and clauses? What are your delivery schedules? What payment terms are you offering? Do they need to have stock holding? And this list obviously will go on depending on the type of product or service and the context of the project. So, a little formula we've developed. Project scope certainty plus procurement certainty equals supplier certainty, which equals best supplier fit at best whole cost. And there, your project delivery can go according to plan. So again, from the system that we have developed and we use, we can have a look at some clauses. So we've got innovation, insurance, industrial relations, track record. The one that we're looking at the moment is market knowledge, and we've got that the clause is the bidder shall provide details of the company's relative position within its industry. Bidder shall provide details of the expertise of its account managers, etc. Now you can say whether you need them to be in the RFQ and give them a default weighting. Obviously you can add to this. We've got a whole library, but you have to start with the basics and then include anything that is critical to your organisation and your project. Some more here, we're looking at quality. So quality systems, internal performance measuring, quality problem solving, communication and responses, etc. So this one that's highlighted at the moment is internal performance measuring, and some clauses could be bidders shall have arrangements in place to facilitate effective internal performance and reporting, so measured against world best practices. Bidders shall have arrangements in place to facilitate effective measuring of customer satisfaction. So again, you can give them a default rating and determine whether they need to be in your RFQ. Pricing, so the one highlighted is currency exposure. Bidder shall provide details on all imported products. Bidder shall provide details of currency exchange rates that affects imported product costs, etc. And again, the same thing, determine if you need it in your RFQ and what weighting you will give it. Delivery, emergency lead time. Bidder shall have arrangements in place for emergency delivery. Lead time to be within 2 hours of order placement, or 8 hours or 6 hours. In Australia, I work with a lot of resource companies like oil and gas, and obviously they have to have really critical fast turnaround for emergency parts. Equally, I've worked in the Middle East where companies will hold stock for 6 months worth of use, because if anything happens in the environment, they might have to shut down and not be able to get stuff from the rest of the world. So really you do need to look at your project, the environment in which you're operating, and the needs that are critical to your successful delivery. Okay, the next one. Stakeholders. This is always, whether it's discussed deliberately or anecdotally, this is always a big issue that comes up in project environments. So a stakeholder is anyone who is affected by or can affect your project. So let's have a look at some examples. You've got your project there. So we've got the project manager, procurement, the project team, the supplier interest, any other interested parties, the user interest, and the suppliers themselves. So just some definitions. The supplier interest is within the organisation that is representing how the product is going to be delivered. So whether it's going to be outsourced or done internally, and the user interest is looking at the ones who will use the project product once it's been delivered. So the rest are fairly self-explanatory. Interested parties could be anywhere else from internal to the organisation, or if you're a government or community-based organisation, you're running a project, it could be the community themselves. So stakeholders might include people within the organisation or groups who are not directly part of the project team. All stakers have an investment in seeing that procurement takes certain factors into account. Now, these might be concerns about where the products were sourced, whether people were paid award wages in the manufacture of products. We now have this whole issue around ethical supply chain, whether the product will cause damage to the environment, whether the products have health and safety risks. And these interested parties can also assist in developing product specifications and clauses and criteria. So, responsibilities for managing project procurement. We have the Project Procurement Executive. They oversee project procurement across a range of projects. They manage the project managers supervising project procurement, and they direct the organisational processes to improve project procurement. So this is a fairly strategic position. We have the PM themselves. They have the overall responsibility for project procurement. They supervise the work of others within project procurement, and they lead planning, negotiating, managing and reviewing of project procurement. Obviously, they will defer to the subject matter experts in the area of project procurement, but they do lead it. Team members. They will work with others to plan project procurement. They will assist in developing tendering and contract documentation, gather information and participate in selecting suppliers and contractors, and participate in contract negotiation and management. They'll also contribute to administering and managing the contract and assist others to review contracts, contractor performance and the procurement processes. Procurement. You need to ask, is this being done by the project team or by the procurement department? If it's being done by procurement, then it is essential for early communication and involvement as to what the project is delivering and what will need to be sourced. Project duty. It is the duty of the entire project team, from the executive on the board, the PM, procurement and the team themselves, as well as the stakeholders, to work together and deliver the best supplier fit at best hold cost for the project according to the scope and specifications. By doing this, we can increase the likelihood of project success dramatically. When we're looking at relationships and responsibilities, don't pass the buck. Stand up and understand what you need to do. Ask for help if you can't do it. Look for the right stakeholder with the subject matter expertise, but take responsibility. You must have collaboration and communication between the project team and procurement. This is critical for success. Involve stakeholders as early as possible in the planning process. There's never a thing as too much communication. Think statistically, someone has to hear a message 7 times before they can fully say that they've heard and understood it. Mitigate ambiguity to suppliers by clearly stating the needs and work this through with your key stakeholders. Don't just have a project communication plan. You must understand what your stakeholders desire, whether they're expressing that verbally or non-verbally as well. These expectations must be managed throughout the project life. Project dynamics and teams change, so choose the mode of communication and the frequency that best suits the project environment and its need. Is it a very formal, hugely scoped project? Then you are going to have formalised communication methods and paths. If it's an informal one, you might just have irregular meetings or lunches or emails. Suit the communication that suits the project. So just as having the plan is important, monitoring its effectiveness is essential. So see how it's going, change anything that isn't working, keep monitoring and refining until you're satisfied. Again, communications is a constant. Remember, 7 times before it's embedded. So keep that in mind when you think you're annoying stakeholders with messages. All right, thank you for persevering with me. Just to recap, what we've covered: skills and knowledge. Lack of these skills and knowledge is going to lead to project implosions. So the opposite is true. The more you can learn, the better your chance of success in your project and for you as an individual. Risks. Be aware of what poor procurement can do. Mitigate those risks. Set yourself up for success. Supplier intent. Be proactive. Drive the process. Ensure that at the start of the process, they are telling you that they've received your request and whether they will or won't respond. The project scope. Drill down through a product breakdown structure and associated product descriptions. Use them as the basis of specification to go to market and make sure that all key stakeholders are in agreement. Lastly, stakeholders. Identify them. Build relationships with them. Communicate with them early and especially engage with procurement as early as possible. All right, that's all for me at this stage. I'll send you over to Bill. Obviously, I can't in 3 videos go through everything that's needed, but let me tell you, when we can deep dive into this in a lot more detail and a lot more breadth, and I'm hoping that you'll join us in that too. In the meantime, thank you very much for sitting through this.
Thanks for sticking it out with me. I hope you understand and use the product breakdown structure. This has helped countless people, and in fact, I have worked on multi-million dollar projects with it, and this technique is the one that can clarify so many points of contention in your project. So if you have to, watch the video again, but please put it into practice ASAP and give me some feedback on how it goes. Stakeholders. Okay, necessary, critical part of your project and of course everyday life. Communicate. Communicate. Remember, too much communication, there is no such thing. Again, love reading your comments, so please keep them coming.
You know, during my introduction, I mentioned the need to pause and to think fresh. Well, the following thoughts came to me from a conference I attended in Asia. At that conference, I came across the importance of reinventing yourself. You know, just like an actor who's continually playing a new part, a new script, a new character, new opportunities. That in turn equals that he's more in demand. He gets better parts and he gets better pay. At this conference, of these business leaders and entrepreneurs from the region, and that was from Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, Korea, Singapore, and other Asian countries, which are the growing economies of the world. The major concerns they had was the need for skilled labour, senior management training, and skills flexibility, looking for leaders and developing leaders in their field. One of Singapore's leading entrepreneurs and business gurus, he stated that if you don't reinvent yourself every 3 years, then you're standing still. So it's really important to reinvent yourself to meet the needs for the future. With constant change, more is and will be expected of you. You may already be a project manager, procurement manager, construction manager, or whatever. But the market is now demanding more from you. Company expectations are increasing. So study and train to meet the needs of the market. While you have strengths in a particular area, fine.
but strengthen what you need to succeed. Again, just like the actor, training for the next part. Remember, in your life, you will play many parts. And in today's market, industry is screaming out for multi-skilled managers. Anyway, thanks again for your attention and time. Hopefully, I've got to know you a little better through your comments, and you've got to know me. So, many blessings as you move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for sticking it out for all of video 3. If you've only watched this one, please visit the other ones as well, as we have gone through a lot of content. We have covered definitions, skills and knowledge that you need. We have covered risk, supplier intent, and today project scope and stakeholders. We really do appreciate your time and the feedback that you're giving us. So if you're ready to take this deeper and journey further, we're going to be opening up a new class very shortly. And the way it works is much like a college class. We're going to work through it all together. There'll be online modules and live calls where we all get together and rationalise what you've been learning in the online modules. So the way it works is that we will open registration in a couple of days and leave that open for maybe 5 or 6 days and then close it down, and then we'll get cracking with the class. So the next video will be all about how to move forward. So if you want more details on the program, we'll be laying it out in the video that's coming next. But for now, please start applying what you've learned, and you'll see the difference that it makes to your project, your organisation, and most importantly, your future.